to join with me in this little activity. So I'm going to say a word, and then you're going to tell me what you think is the opposite word. So for example, if I say good, you'll say bad. Man,
Woman,
male,
female,
heterosexual.
gay,
See how quick and easy we came up with those terms? I'm sure if I had said yellow, we would have a harder time deciding which color is its opposite. Yes. Even though we have as many sexes and genders as we possibly have colors, we don't lay them on an equal standing as we do black, white, yellow, green, or blue. This is because the world we live in is so binary. So as human, we have the tendency to categorize and polarize things, and we do this so much that we started taking these binaries for granted. And I myself was no exception. But as I get to see and experience the diversity of the world around me, I started questioning why we all do these things, and I was committed to find the answer. And so today I'm going to present that answer to you. So hopefully after my speech, you will realize that not all systems can or should be divided into twos, because by doing so, we oppress so many people's right to live up to their fullest potential. And so today, I will first talk about how gender and sexuality binaries create gender and sexual and sex hierarchies, how that is not natural or universal, and finally, what we can do to make our community less hostile and more inclusive. So first, I will talk about the problems created by this way of thinking. In her 2011 article, Thinking Sex in American Religions, University of North Carolina professor Megan Goodwin says that Western thoughts usually organize itself into either or term, and that one term is valued above the other. So by drawing a line between two groups, these binary terms simultaneously imply that one group is dominant and the other is submissive. And so as a result, it put heterosexual male at the top of the hierarchy. Moreover, according to a 2004 article questioning gender and sexuality binaries by University of Houston professor Beverly McFell, transgender, intersex, and bisexual individuals are often left out of this binomial institution. She also accused that in their fight for justice, LGBT communities continue to reinforce the notion that they are a sex and gender minority, while the core structural cognitive problems are oftentimes not addressed. And so because the binary system gives power to only one group, the most effective way to equally distribute power across sex and gender variations is to deconstruct these binary. So I talked about how our way of thinking can create problems. I will now explain what structures the binary and why they shouldn't exist. So sex and gender binaries are Western thoughts that have deep roots in the Judeo-Christian ideology, which was originated roughly 3,000 years ago. And so as the saying goes, God creates Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve and Eve. So the growth of Christianity and the age of exploration in the 15th century played a key role in spreading these Western ideologies to most part of the world. This binary system was so well established, widespread, and strongly reinforced that today we tend to think of it as an indispensable part of our reality, that things are either this or not this. But in reality, scientists have found countless evidence across human cultures that do not follow this Western sex and gender pattern. So in her 2007 article, Decolonization and the Question of Subjectivity, Dr. Freya Skiwe of UC Riverside states that in many primitive societies, sex was seen as dynamic and subject to change according to levels of body heat and humidity. So she elaborates that before colonialism, most Andean societies possessed a third gender, which obviously didn't sit well with European colonists. The same pattern was observed in Native American cultures. In her 2000 book, Gender Diversity, Cross-Cultural Variations, Serena Nanda, a professor at John Jay College of Justice, talks in great length about the Native Americans' two spirits. So two spirits are Native American male and female who took on the role of the opposite sex. And so the European colonists used to call them badarts, which is the Arabic word for male prostitute. And so they were deemed abnormal and sinful, and so by the end of 1930, they almost disappeared among the Native American. All right, so I talked about what created our binary system of thinking. I will now talk about what we can do to put the end to that, to the gender and sexuality inequality. So, in the 2004 article by Beverly McFell that I mentioned earlier, she suggests some solutions and some actions that we as a society, as teachers, learners, family members, and friends can take in order to deconstruct the effects of the binaries in our society. So first, when talking about sex and gender, use continuum instead of categories. Use gender-neutral terms like, for example, police officer instead of policeman or policewomen. Then learn and teach about postmodern queer theory and the latest sex research. So ask questions that allow possibilities instead of yes/no question when talking about sex and gender. Don't make assumptions about other people. And finally, learn to live within the complexities. Right. So I just talked about how we as a community can help put an end to sex and gender inequality. Now let's wrap things up. So hopefully by now you realize that these binary terms that we use every day are definitely not, definitely inadequate and irrelevant, and they contribute to the persistence of sex and gender inequality. So I talked about the binary system's shortcomings, what created those shortcomings, and what we as a community can do to help promote a more open-minded, more accepting and inclusive society. So it might take long for us to see the changes in our society, but your small acts really add up. So today I will leave you with a challenge. So the next time you hear someone make a bold accusation of other people's sex, gender, or sexualities, I challenge you to speak up. Tell them, get over it. Some people just don't fit into the binaries. And so hopefully with information that you learned from my speech today, you will be able to persuade them. Thank you.